I'm very pleased at this time to introduce our next speaker. And he's been a speaker at all of our events and really one of the most interesting topics. One of the great things about having members of the aviation press come and speak is these guys see everything. And Robert Goyer happens to also live in Austin. And like the rest of us transplanted Texans, we weren't born here, but we got here as fast as we could. And Robert, I asked Robert to come and tell us about all the really great things that he's seen this year that we may not have heard about, and what to expect in the coming year in aviation. So, Robert?
Well, hello everybody. Jerry, thank you so much for having me again, and thanks to Roger for putting this all together, and Josh and whole team at Redbird. This is really one of the most enjoyable couple of days of the year for me, because for once I get to come and listen to you all speak, and I get to really enjoy some tremendously varied viewpoints on things. And I was kind of surprised when I saw the lineup of speakers that Jerry put me not only last but after him. And Jerry is a tough act to follow, as everybody knows. And not only that, but while Roger was the last thing standing between you and a break, I believe the last thing standing between you and drinking and dinner. So that's a pretty tough order. So I've got a long series of very dense flow charts and graphics to share with you. No, seriously, we're going to be doing I want to show you some video. Now, when Jerry asked me to share with you guys some of the most interesting things going on in aviation right now, it was a really cool assignment, because there's just no shortage of those things right now. And that's because in aviation, we have just a tremendous number of really, really smart, interesting, inventive, innovative people. And it really surprises me sometimes that we're able to take all this really cool stuff that we have going on in the industry and present to these student pilots, these new pilots, these people coming to our world, a vision of the world that is anything but interesting. And I think one of the reasons is that we need to show them the passion that we have for what we do. That needs to be job one. And while we're doing that, there's some challenges involved in doing that. And I think that you'll see some of those challenges as we go along here. A little bit about Flying Magazine, just real quick. Flying Magazine has been around since 1927. It was founded, it was inspired by Charles Lindbergh's transatlantic flight, and it's been around ever since. It started as Popular Aviation, and then became flying in the 1930s. AOPA, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but was a spin-off of Flying Magazine. And it was, all folks back at the time in the 1930s were very interested in, interestingly enough, exactly the same kinds of things in principle that we're interested in today. And a lot of the same kinds of arguments and discussions that we're having today, they were having back there in the 1930s. It's one of the most interesting things about my job, is having a chance to go back through all of our old issues and seeing what people were talking about back then. Very similar kinds of stuff. And that's, I used the image of the Eclipse because I think it's a really pretty cover, and it's just a beautiful airplane. And it really does underscore, too, the genius that we have in this industry. You know, when Vern said that he was going to build, Vern Rayburn, the founder of Eclipse, said he was going to build a 6,000-pound personal twin jet, it seemed absolutely impossible. And it was pretty close to that, but he did pull it off. And today the 550 is it's a really brilliant airplane that's a lot of fun to fly, too. Any of you guys had a chance to fly the Eclipse? Yeah, it's it's a remarkable airplane, and it weighs less than a Baron. Okay, so just a little bit about the some background. I'm the editor-in-chief of Flying. Flying's been around since 27. I wasn't there at the time, but I've read all about it, and I really wish that I had been, because when you go back to the 1920s, you'll see that aviation was going through a sea change. We were seeing ourselves as being as having an unlimited future. And that's something that we don't see today, and I think that's an absolute crime. We believe somehow, and I don't get this, but there's this pervasive belief in aviation that somehow we have come up with every good idea that there is to come up with already. If you look back at aviation history, you'll see that, well, that's simply patently false. People thought that, and in the 1920s we came up with really fast metal monoplanes, that could do better than 300 miles an hour. They were on floats at the time, the Schneider Cup racers. And then back in the 1930s, in the 30s we started developing jets. In the 1940s, we developed fast jets, and then turbofan engines, and then space flight. And these were all improvements, advancements that were made when everybody was saying that, well, when the vast majority of people were saying that we've already come as far as we can go. And to think that we don't have room to grow is deceiving ourselves, not giving us enough credit, and I think it's selling ourselves short in the long run. We need to fully embrace the future that aviation has. That's passion, and it's also belief. There's a little bit of faith involved there, but if you study history, not much faith. It's just going to happen. That's all there is to it. I was in an unusual situation. I was up at the Wichita Aero Club last year, and there was a panel discussion. I found myself in Wichita, the cradle of modern GA, having to defend general aviation's future among this panel of aviation experts who were saying that GA has seen, its best days. GA will never again have the kind of interest, the kind of passion associated with it that it once did. And I say that's absolute nonsense. There are technological advancements that will come. It might not be next year, it might not be in 5 years or even 10 years, but these things will happen. It's going to revolutionize what we do. And we're going to have a lot of people flying and a lot of people having fun doing it. That's something that's going to happen. And in 10 years, Jerry, when we're back here, I want to have a chance to remind you all that this was my view on it, because I think that we're going to see something. It might be with electric flight, and it might be something completely different. Propulsion is a good bet, and we don't know exactly what that is yet, but there are a lot of really smart people out there working all over the world on developing new modes of transportation, new modes of propulsion. So let's keep our eyes open on that. Okay, as far as our job is concerned, and this is going to be real fast, but because when we teach passion, we also have to be smart about how we teach it. We need to educate people, and that's what we do every day. That's what Jerry is doing with his team, and teaching people how to fly, teaching in smart ways. And I loved the way Roger was talking about aviation education, not teaching ground school, but teaching what we really do, teaching flying instead. And teach real safety, which means not some kind of theoretical safety like you might read on an FAA knowledge test. Thank goodness they're changing also, but teach what we're really concerned about. How are people coming to grief in the real world in airplanes, and teach the people that we're teaching how to fly how to recognize those things ahead of time, how to avoid them, how to get out of them if they find themselves in that situation. It's basically, safe-proofing these pilots as we prepare them for the real world of flying. I learned to fly back in 1976, and I had a great instructor, and he taught me none of this stuff. The stuff that he was a great stick and rudder instructor, but when it came to teaching me how to be safe flying cross country, I knew none of that. I had to figure that out myself, and the way I figured it out was by nearly coming to grief on multiple occasions, and I'm sure a lot of you have been through that exact same process. We need to do better by our students these days. And we need to know the risks, to teach the response to that, but we have to encourage the passion also, because there's some passion that brought us to flying in the first place, and that's what's going to keep us flying. That's what's going to bring a new generation of people to flying as well. And as far as cool stuff is concerned, boy, when Jerry gave me this assignment, it was like kid in a candy shop kind of a thing. There's just no end to the cool stuff that's out there. And a lot of you folks are involved in developing and bringing to market that kind of cool stuff. Avionics, pilot gear, apps, apps from ForeFlight and Garmin and Bendix King. There's so much cool stuff out there. New propulsion, like I mentioned briefly, new social outlets, and we'll get to that in a sec, and new ways to fly as well. And we'll see that in a sec. And new ways to fly. That's something that I never thought I'd see when I was learning how to fly back in 1976. It's not something I'm likely to be doing soon myself, but it's really fun to watch. And to think that these guys are flying around at very high speeds, basically with a wing that you wear, these wingsuit flyers. If anybody who's at Oshkosh had a chance to see Yves Rossi in his wingsuit, it was spectacular to think that the guy's flying around in a jet-powered airplane that you wear. It's remarkable stuff. One thing that really gets me, though, is these guys who base jump with these wingsuits and they fly down through rock formations, they wear helmets. I wonder what they think that helmet's going to do for them. That's the definition of optimism. And we talk about compression engines, and I think Cessna's been getting not a whole lot of love here today, but I love the JTA program. It's been going through some teething problems, but I think they're really on the right track with that. And whoever came up with that idea to get that program started is a pretty smart guy. Obviously, Jerry and his team are working on the Red Hawk, and I had a chance to fly that and write about that as well. Roger and I flew it, and everything that Paul said about it was right on the money. It's a really cool little airplane that is going to, I think, have a good impact in aviation. And this is something I've been playing with recently, these action cams. It seems like, this cool new stuff, and I know this isn't new stuff, but I think a lot of us don't really get how important this is to aviation. These little cams allow people to do something that's almost impossible to do in aviation. I know when I was 17 years old, I had my ticket, I'd go up to the airport, I'd go flying somewhere up to Big Bear for lunch and come back, and I would tell people that I went flying, and that was the end of the conversation. With my friends and with other families that were friends of my family, that's all they got from it. And today, we can actually show them what we did, where we went, and how we did it. It's really cool stuff, and you can see the popularity of these things on YouTube, that this really resonates with pilots out there. And I think that's something that as flight schools we can do to help reinforce what our students, what our learners are doing out there. They get a chance to not only do that flying, but when they come home, they can show their loved ones what it is they're doing and how cool it looks to be up there. And this is the new Garmin Verb, by the way. I don't know if you guys have heard about this or not, but I got one. I brought it out to Vegas with me when I flew the Cirrus out to Las Vegas for NBAA, and I have about 15 hours of video with this thing, and it's spectacular. And it's really a lot of fun. I'm doing exactly the same thing that I describe people doing. I'm showing it to all my friends and family. Isn't this a lot of fun? Put it on Facebook and like that. So check out my Facebook page. You'll see some video there. Also new airframes, and this is something that is, I think, really going to have a big change in aviation. This is there's as many ways to pronounce the name of this company as there are people who try to pronounce it. We say Pipistrel, and that's the Pantera. It is a carbon fiber 4-place fast. We don't know exactly how fast yet, but it's probably going to be 180 knots. Very fuel efficient airplane, retractable gear airplane that's being made in the former Eastern Bloc, and it is the kind of thing that, as Pete Bunce was talking about earlier today, is the kind of thing that's going to be possible with these amended, updated Part 23 certification standards. That's a wonderful thing happening in aviation right now, and we all have to throw our weight behind that, because that is going to make it, like Pete was explaining, cheaper to get airplanes certified, better, more utilitarian, more fun, cheaper airplanes through, and that's going to help our industry a great deal as well. Another cool product, we're talking about digital products. Electronics have transformed our aviation world in the last 20 years, and this is an example of Bendix King Scale R10. It's a little angle of attack indicator that costs about the same as a portable GPS, and you can stick it up on the glare shield, and you have this terrific tool for angle of attack. And a lot of people believe that angle of attack is a very important tool for preventing loss of control accidents. All I know is that loss of control accidents are out of control, and we need to do something about it. And if angle of attack instruments help in doing that, then I'm all for them, absolutely. And a really cool instrument brought to market in a short time by some really smart people who had a good idea. And this is just an example of what's happened in our cockpits. I show this slide and everybody kind of yawns because we're so used to seeing this. This is an example of an extremely complex jet cockpit that has been made simple. It's taken almost all of the systems and moved them onto displays. It's probably cut the number of buttons and dials and switches in that airplane by 90-something%. It's a phenomenal accomplishment. We forget about that. And the airplanes that we're learning in, that we're teaching our students in, they have all these advantages as well. This is a huge, cool new thing. And we're going to see a second generation of avionics come about. G1000, I think, it's so ubiquitous these days. But there's going to be a second generation of avionics, of flat panel avionics, that we haven't seen yet, or we're just starting to see, that is going to do away with a lot of the kind of old-fashioned interfaces that we used to use for controlling steam gauge avionics. And once we do that, I think it's going to become easier and easier, fewer steps and less of a learning curve. Because you guys know the G1000 has a learning curve. And we're looking to cut that learning curve. And there are a lot of companies out there looking to do exactly that too. And this is something that I just pulled off of my computer. I have my camera out when I go flying, and I take cool pictures of things. I have literally hundreds of pictures of cool things that I see from the air. Now, one of the things about this is people think you go flying and you're up real high and there's nothing interesting to see whatsoever. Yet every flight I go on, there's like, I find 15 or 20 cool things that I want to take a picture of. And it's a little bit, the contrast isn't great in here, it's a little bit dark, but this is actually, you might be able to see it here. That is a very distinct shadow of a contrail. I'd never seen that before in all my flying days. And very pretty contrails on top of that too. Whoops. Now this is a new airplane called the Double Ender. It's one of the least, I think, imaginative names for an airplane. Every airplane actually is a double ender. This one just happens to have engines on both ends. So this guy is an experimental builder up in Alaska, and he took a couple of Rotax 914s, turbocharged engines, and then he modded them to about 130 horsepower apiece. And then he stuck one detractor and then a pusher on the other end. You'll see it in a second. And he created this airplane that he likes to do interesting things with. Can you make that thing do an interesting thing? Hold on to your hats. Oh, keep it going. Keep the video going, please. He emerges. Oh. I swear he really does emerge. He comes out at the bottom of that glacier. Everything is all well and good, and we have more videos to prove it. But in any case, this is the kind of thing that you're going to see on YouTube. And it creates a bit of a conflict, because here we are showing these kinds of things to people who are learning how to fly. And if we don't show them to them, they're going to find them themselves. And then how do we talk about that with them? You know, because clearly you don't want to tell your students that this is a good idea to go out and do this. Yet this is the kind of thing that encourages the kind of passion that we do want to encourage, to get people flying and to keep people flying. And I say that, you know, I love watching this stuff, but I'm not going to do this. And I think that it's reasonable to assume that people can watch things that are not a good idea to do themselves and not do it. And there are people who are going to do this regardless of whether we tell them they should or shouldn't do it. So it's something that I think we can totally accommodate within our aviation education. And I think it's something that is it's very interesting. This project, I mean, I'm glad this guy did this really odd airplane. And check it out, the Double Ender. There's a couple more interesting videos. And if you check out our Flying E-News today, we've got this featured. And there are 3 videos on there. And you'll see how the guy does actually emerge at the bottom by the glacier field down there. And there's also a lot of beauty in flight as well. This is, again, just taken with a handheld cam, coming out of Fairhope, Alabama. And it was the most beautiful night I've ever seen in my life. And we were up there among the clouds. I was with Jerry. We were flying the CJ1 Plus back from Fairhope. It was just a beautiful, it had been a great trip. It was a beautiful flight, and I got to capture that and shared that with a couple 100,000 of our readers with flying. And it's the kind of thing that, you know, if you don't see that yourself, it's easy to forget just how fantastic it is to be up in the air, how it changes your perspective, it changes everything. And we as pilots, we really do know that. And I think we need to really communicate that with new pilots, that it does change everything. This is what we love to do. This is the great stuff. Yeah, it's a little bit dim, but can you see what that is? That's just a huge thunderstorm. I was negotiating, I don't know why I had to negotiate, but I was negotiating with the controller to keep on going a little bit left and a little bit further left. He seemed to be fine with where I was, but that was quite a thunderstorm right over Fort Stockton, Texas. And pulled out my camera and said, I want to remember this. And Lake Mead on the way into Vegas the other day, just beautiful reflections. And anybody recognize this town? It's the second or third best city in all of Texas. That would be Dallas. And that's Love Field parallel approaches. And there I was, parallel approach with the Cirrus. I was actually making a little bit better progress, forward progress, than the 7.3 to my left. So that was pretty cool. And the eclipse again on that really awesome photo shoot. And lastly, this is another really fun video of a guy making up a landing strip. If anybody can make out the landing strip there, you're a better judge of these things than I am. He's flying a Super Cub. I would have added power there too. Maybe a lot more. Still looking for the strip. And brakes. And that's it. Can you stop the film now, Josh? He's going to turn around and take off from there also, and it's just absolutely stunning scenery. It's on the, for most flight schools, that would be on the list of unapproved fields, by the way. Great, thanks, Josh. Well, that's about it. You know, I want to thank you very much and thank Jerry again for the opportunity here, and just, you know, leave with a reminder that flying is an absolute blast. It's the most enjoyable thing in the world to me, and I know to a lot of you guys too. Let's share that with everybody that you know. Thanks again.